Okay, now the next lesson that we're looking at in section 6-6, the topic is squares and kites. So we're going to use this section to look at these two types of four-sided figures, these two quadrilaterals. We'll start with a square. Now, here's the deal. Remember, a square is a parallelogram, a rectangle, and a rhombus. And these are three figures that we've already studied in previous sections. And so what we want to make sure that we understand about that is that a square gets four properties for being a parallelogram. Remember, we studied four properties in that section on parallelogram. It has two properties for being a rectangle, and it has three properties for being a rhombus. Okay, so a square doesn't have any extra properties of its own, all right, but it has 9 properties for being these other figures. All right, so those are the properties that we need to make sure that we go back over. All right, so let's take a look at it. Okay, so starting with the properties for a parallelogram and going all the way through. So in a square, the opposite sides are congruent. So if the left and right are 5 and 5, the top and bottom is 5 and 5. These are for being a parallelogram. Okay, the opposite angles are congruent, 90 and 90, right? The consecutive angles are supplementary. 90 plus 90 adds up to 180, right? In a rectangle, all corners are 90 degrees, right? And in a also parallelogram, the diagonals bisect each other, so they cut each other in half. But for a rectangle, the diagonals are congruent, right? So all 4 pieces of the diagonal are the same. Since it's a rhombus, the diagonals are perpendicular, right? And all 4 sides are the same length, right? And the other property, let's see, what was it? Same length. We just did that section. Let me look at it. The diagonals are perpendicular. Oh yeah, the diagonals are angle bisectors. So all the 90s get cut in half to 45. Okay, so in a square, these are all the properties kind of drawn out. All 4 sides are the same length. All 4 angles are 90 degrees. All 4 halves of the diagonals are the same, right? So that means if this was 10, they would all be 10. And all the angles in the center are 90 degrees. Those are the things to remember about a square. Okay, so based on those properties, can we answer these types of questions? Here's a square, and it says that AB is 8x minus 10, BC is 6x plus 4. We need to find x. All right, look at the 2 pieces they give me. AB, that's the top of the square, and BC, that is the right side of the square. I need to set up an equation that I can use to find x. Well, what do we know about all the sides? They should be the same length. So the equation I'm going to make is setting these two equal to one another. So it's going to be 8x minus 10 is equal to 6x plus 4. Okay? And so now all the regular numbers go to one side. The x's go to the other. So I'm going to move that 6x to the other side, change it to minus. The 4 is going to stay where it is, and it's going to be joined by this minus 10, which will go across and change to plus 10. Remember the rule, anytime you move a sign across the equal sign, it's got to change signs. Subtract here and give me 2x. Add here and give me 14. Let's divide by 2 and finish it to get x equals 7. So x equals 7. But that's not all they asked me to find. They asked me to find AD. Now, I don't have any expression for AD, right? Because AD is this other side, the left-hand side. But remember, all 4 sides are the same length, so I can plug into any of these sides, and that would be equal to AD. So I can take my 7 and plug it here, or I can take my 7 and plug it here. Okay, so I can do it either way, really, and then come up with the right answer. Let's plug it here. 7 times 6 is going to be 42, and then 42 plus 4 is 46. So there you go. All right. What about the next question that they are asking me for now? Okay, so on this one, they're telling me the measure of angle ADC is 5x plus 5, or plus 25. And I need to find the value of x. So let's locate the angle first. ADC. ADC. Well, ADC is the full corner, and we know the full corner is 90 degrees. That'll help me make the equation that I need. 5x plus 25 equals to 90, right? Now, if they had given me ADE, then I would have set that equal to 45 instead of 90. So keep that in mind. All right. Now to finish it, 25 goes to the other side. We got 5x. Whoops. 5x is equal to 90 minus 25. So we'll come over, change to minus. 5x is equal to, when I subtract that off, we'll get 65. I'm ready to divide it by 5. And now we get x is equal to 13. And then that is your correct answer. Okay? Alright, so that's a few examples of squares. So now let's go to the other figure. Let's focus our attention on a kite now. So a kite has 3 properties. Okay, so number 1, a kite has one pair of opposite angles congruent. It has one pair of opposite angles congruent. So in this figure, we've got this top angle and the bottom angle the same. So like if this is 42, then the bottom one's 42. Okay, one pair of opposite angles congruent, not 2 pairs, so keep that in mind. The diagonals are perpendicular, so just like in a rhombus, the diagonals are going to be perpendicular, so they'll cross at 90 degrees. And here's the third property. One diagonal is bisected. So the diagonal that connects the congruent angles together, that is the diagonal that is cut in half. Okay? So, in a kite, remember, by definition, it has 2 pair of congruent, consecutive congruent sides. So I know that these 2 are the same length and these 2 are the same length. That's by the definition of a kite that we looked at a couple of sections ago. Then by the properties, I know that these 2 angles are the same. This angle in the middle is 90 degrees, and these 2 pieces, or these 2 halves of the diagonal, are the same. All right, so those are the things that we know from a kite. All right. Okay, so what type of problems are we going to be faced with here? Let's take a look and see. All right, so number 1, it's going to tell me that the figure is a kite, and they're giving me AB, which is this segment, and they're giving me AD, which is this segment. All right, and I need to find the value of x. I need to find AB and AD. Okay. Now, these 2 are the consecutive sides, one pair of consecutive sides that would be congruent. So my equation is going to be to set 12x minus 5 equal to 7x plus 10. I now have an equation that I can solve for x, and so when I do, it's going to be 12x minus 7x, goes across, change sign, 10 staying put. 5 is going to join it and change to plus when it does. Okay, so I'm going to subtract that off and get 5x. I'm going to add these together and get 15. I'm going to divide both sides by 5, and that'll leave me with x equals 3. Okay, so x equals 3. Got that part of it. Now I need AB and AD. Well, let's plug 3 into AB. All right, so 12 times 3 is going to be 36, and then 36 minus 5 is going to make AB 31. And I'm not even going to plug into AD because remember, AB and AD have got to be the same. So if AB is 31, then AD is also going to be 31. Yeah? All right, let's see the other problem that we have. Okay, so the next one we have tells us that the measure of angle A is 52. Let's go ahead and write that in. Measure of angle A is 52. The measure of angle B is 138, so I'm going to put 138 here. And, oops, can't see that. Okay, so I've labeled those 2 angles. And they want to find the measure of angle C. All right. Now, at first you might be tempted to say, oh, angle C is 52. But that's not correct, okay, because it only has one pair of opposite angles congruent, and that's not the pair. The opposite pair of angles that are congruent are B and D. So if this is 138, this one's 138. All right? So you can tell that this angle is shorter than, or smaller than this angle. All right? So they are not congruent. So keep that in mind. All right. Now, here's the question. I've got 3 out of these 4 angles. How am I going to find angle C? Well, remember the very first section for this unit showed me a formula to figure out what the interior of all the angles adds up to. This is a quadrilateral, a four-sided figure, right? So then you could just say, well, remember the formula? 180 times n minus 2. How many sides does a kite have? It has 4, right? So 4 minus 2 is 2. 2 times 180 is 360. All right, so what that means is all the angles on the inside of a kite will add up to 360 because a kite is a quadrilateral. All right? Now, in order to finish that then, since I have 3 out of the 4 angles, then all I just need to do is take a calculator and go 360 minus 138 minus 138 minus 52, and whatever's left, which is 32, it's got to be the answer for angle C, 32. All right, so there you go. Finished.